So welcome Mataji for visiting our temple here. We are very fortunate that you're here today and we can listen from you. Für alle Devotees hier, wir haben eine Übersetzung, hinten ist deutsche Übersetzung, der Dandasak wird übersetzen und auf der anderen Seite ist Übersetzung ins Russische, wer es braucht. Gibt es jemanden, Russische, der es benötigt?
Muss auch Russisch sein.
Arrange the translation. Arrange a translation. We have German translation and Russian translation. Do you speak in English?
I will.
And you will read one verse from Bhagavad?
I will read one verse, maybe a few more, and after I will go into one meditation.
Liebe Devotees, alle die Englisch verstehen, please, everyone who understands English, please come forward and make space for those who need the translation into German and into Russian. Please, everyone who understands English, please come forward. Push forward your seats. Here, kommt bitte rutscht alle mit den Sitzen bitte weiter nach vorne, so that you make space for those who need the translation.
Somebody sing for 5 minutes.
Mother, okay. Would you like to sing for Mataji? Would you like to sing? Shorter, more.
Okay. How much time I shouldn't go over?
sing for 1 hour. Is it okay?
Maybe 2.
You can also 1.5. As you like. As you like.
Because maybe you will take prashadam.
No. 1.5.
Well,
Jaya Radha Madhava
devotees, I'm very, very grateful and honored to be with you today. And I'm very thankful to my dear godbrother, to Dara, Mataji, to have invited me to be with you today. So we have about 1 hour and a half, and we are going to read, as I was asked, a verse from Bhagavad Gita. And after reading this verse and a few verses, we are going to talk about Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Amadganatiminandasya gyanam shanam sadakaya shaksun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, for I was in the darkness of ignorance. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Kachalini Nirvise Sarashunyapadi Pashatya Dishatayini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanshakarapatarubhyasha, Kripasindubhya Vatsha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, before starting, I ask your blessing to say a few words meaningful and ask the blessing to all the Vaishnavas. This age of Kali is raging, and a lot of people who come to the temple who don't know much about Krishna consciousness, they are asking us, if God is all good, why is he creating and allowing so much trouble in the world, so much suffering? Actually, God doesn't want to punish the living entities. He just wants actually to bring back all the suffering conditioned souls to his lotus feet. And how is his mercy expressed? His mercy is expressed when he is actually sending a holy person, true saintly person. And a lot of people who are fortunate enough to come in touch with spiritual life, the spiritual seekers, when they are very sincere, Krishna within the heart is actually directing to a sage, a holy man, a holy person, a devotee of the Lord. So, we choose verse 54 of the 2nd chapter, when Arjuna is asking to Krishna how to recognize such a holy man, such a holy person. So, I'll read the text. Arjuna uvacha stita pragasya kavasa samadhistasya keshava stita dhikim prabhasita kimasita vrajeta kim. Arjuna uvacha stita pragasya kavasa samadhistasya keshava stita dhikim prabhasita kimasita vrajeta kim. Arjuna uvacha stita pragasya kavasa Samadhistasya Keshava Stitadi Kim Prabhaseta Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. How do you do? Do you recite also?
Yes.
So please.
Alexei, kannst du die Schrift ein bisschen größer machen? Ja. Arjuna Vacha.
Arjuna Vacha. Stita Pragasya Kavasa. Samadhistasya Keshava. Stitadi Kim Prabhasheta. Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. Arjuna Vacha. Stita Pragasya Kavasa. Samadhistasya Keshava. Stitadi Kim Prabhasheta. Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. Arjuna Vacha. Stita Pragasya Kavasa. Samadhistasya Keshava. Stitadi Kim Prabhaseta. Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. Vaishnavis.
Arjuna Vacha.
Arjuna Vacha. Stita Pragasya Kavasa. Samadhistasya Keshava. Stitadi Kim Prabhasheta. Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. Arjuna Vacha. Stita Pragasya Kavasa. Samadhistasya Keshava. Stitadi Kim Prabhasheta. Stitadi Kim Prabhaseta. Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. Okay. Synonyms. Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna said. Stita Pragasya. Of one who is situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. Ka. What? Vasa. Language. Samadhistasya. Of one situated in trance. Keshava. Oh Krishna. Stitadir. One fixed in Krishna consciousness. Kim. What? Prabhaseta. Speak. Kim. How? Asita. Does remain. Vrajeta. Walk. Kim. How? Translation. Arjuna said, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Srila Prabhupada purport. As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is Krishna conscious as his particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is known as a rich man, as a diseased man has his symptoms by which he is known as diseased, or as a learning man has his symptoms, so a man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. One can know specific symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks. For speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak, and certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptoms of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow, as stated below. So in this chapter, Krishna is going to answer to Arjuna, and he is going to describe what are the symptoms of self-realized souls. So we're just going to read the English translation of a few of these verses that describe a self-realized soul. The Blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all variety of sense desire, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Next verse. One who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense object, as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell, is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. So, to describe such a self-realized soul and a pure devotee of Krishna, I was thinking to share with you some of Srila Prabhupada qualities. And we won't have time to go through the whole day, but I was thinking of going to Srila Prabhupada daily schedule. And then we can actually observe what Srila Prabhupada did during one day, and how he manifested his beautiful qualities of pure devotion. So, one thing about Srila Prabhupada and all our Acharya is that they didn't waste a second. Their whole life was actually for the pleasure of Krishna, and also to share spiritual knowledge with others. So before Srila Prabhupada, we had a lot of wonderful Acharya, and one of these wonderful Acharya was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So let's go first to the schedule of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and you have to calculate how many hours he slept, okay? So we start from the evening. At 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., he rested. Then he got up at 10 o'clock in the evening and he was writing books. We know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually wrote a lot of wonderful devotional songs, and he wrote a lot of philosophical books. Actually, before Srila Prabhupada was really chosen by Lord Chaitanya to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, over the Western world, and then to other countries all over the world. But the two Acharya before him, who actually helped Srila Prabhupada in his mission, who were planting the seed, were Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent some books first to Canada, to McGill University. And devotees found these books in English about the life and teaching of Lord Chaitanya. We found also in London, in the British Museum, some books of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he was writing a lot. So then, let's see, so it was 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. he was writing. Then at 4 a.m. sorry, it's not very... yes, because I don't have very good glasses. Okay, yeah, thank you. At 4 a.m. to 4:30, again it took half an hour rest. And at 4:30 to 7 a.m., he was chanting japa. 7 to 7:30, he did his correspondence and answering letters. Then 7:30 to 9, he was studying Shastra. 9:30 to 10, he took his bath and he took some prasadam milk, fruits and 2 chapatis. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., you remember he was actually working. He was, at that time, he was a High Court judge. It was still under, India was still under the reign of Queen Victoria in England. India was not independent. And at that time, there was a saying about England that the sun never set on the British Empire because England had so many colonies and was ruling over so many countries in the world. So 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., he will come at home and he will take bath, he will refresh himself. And 2 to 3, court duties, his work. Then 3 to 7, he would translate the Shastras. 7 to 8, he will take bath, he will take again prasadam milk, a little rice and 2 chapatis. So that was the day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So how much time did he sleep? First, it took rest first 8 to 10 in the evening, it's 2. Then half an hour again at 4 to 4:30. So it's not to be imitated, 2.5 hours. And Srila Prabhupada was actually very, very conscious of time. So at night, Srila Prabhupada rested for 2 hours, or maybe a little more, depending, usually 10:30 at night to 12:30. And again, sometimes 2 hours after lunch. So I'll tell you a little story, maybe you know that story, about time. You know, when Prabhupada used to come to a temple, the devotees wanted to offer gifts to him. And one gift that was often offered to Srila Prabhupada was a watch. Because he was so conscious of time, and we didn't have our smartphone at this time, you know. It was pretty basic, so he had a watch. And if somebody was very wealthy, a very wealthy devotee, will actually give him a very, very expensive, beautiful watch. And if somebody was quite poor, he would give a plastic watch. Prabhupada was not attached. When he would receive a new watch, he would give the old one to a devotee. So that story was told that will be illustrating one of Srila Prabhupada's quality, one of the pure devotee quality. That's true loving care, true compassion. So that story was told by a boy from India who became a devotee. Maybe you know, who knows that story? The boy was called Haridas. If I forget something, you complete. So the boy actually was born in quite an unfortunate situation of life. His mother, we don't know the reason, but the mother left the boy in the street. She couldn't take care of him. And like many little children in India, he grew as he could. Sometimes you see little children, you know, near the train station, and they just live as they can, they sell things. And that little boy, he just, to survive, he started to steal things. And he had little hands, and he was very, very expert in stealing. Then he grew up, and he became a very good, very expert thief. One day, he met a devotee, and the devotee gave him a Back to Godhead magazine. So he was not interested in spiritual life, but he took the magazine and he started to turn the pages, and he saw the beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada. But he became very, very attracted. But he was not attracted by Srila Prabhupada's beautiful picture. He was attracted by what Srila Prabhupada had around his wrist. And this time it was really a very expensive, beautiful watch. So he became obsessed by that watch. And he thought, I have to steal it. I want it for me. Then, what to do? How can he do that? Okay, he went to a temple, and then he pretended he wanted to be a devotee. So he did everything a new Bhakta does. When we come to the temple, we ask to wash the pots, to sweep the floor. So he did all that very, very seriously. And the authorities, they thought he's such a wonderful devotee, he's very sincere. So he carried on for a long, long time. Prabhupada was not coming to the temple. And every day he was very humbly doing all the menial tasks. And one day, the big news came. Srila Prabhupada is coming to the temple. Because he was so humble, according to the authority, they said that we are going to arrange a meeting with Srila Prabhupada. So one day he came in the room, and Srila Prabhupada was sitting as usual on a cushion on the floor under a low desk table. And Prabhupada gestured to the boy to come near and to sit in front of him. And Prabhupada was just leaning like that on the desk. And what the boy saw was a beautiful, beautiful watch. So Prabhupada didn't say anything, he didn't talk to him. for quite a while. He looked in his eyes, and when Srila Prabhupada looked at you, it was like a scan. You couldn't hide anything from Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada didn't say anything, but without a word, he took his watch out and he gave it to the boy. And then, for the first time, the boy understood what is spiritual life. He became overwhelmed. And at this minute, he became a real devotee. But Prabhupada did even more to him. The devotee who became Haridas, Prabhu, had a lot of service. And one day, he had to take the plane to go to another city in India. And he needed a passport. So he tried to fill all the documents to get a passport. But then he couldn't fill everything. And he came to Srila Prabhupada. He said, "I'm sorry, I cannot do this duty. I cannot get a passport." Prabhupada says, "Why? I cannot fill everything that is required." So he gave, Prabhupada says, "Give me the document." So he took the document, and there was a sentence, "Name of your father." And the boy did not know who his father was. So Srila Prabhupada said, "Give me the document." And he wrote, "Name of your father, S.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Prabhupada." So Prabhupada gave him everything he could desire. First he gave him the watch, that was a strong material desire. But then he gave him what he was dreaming of, the best spiritual father. So time was very important. Let's go to the temple I joined in London. It was the first temple in London near the British Museum called Bury Place. George Harrison helped the devotee to be able to pay the rent of the temple. So Prabhupada was in the temple. It was 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock to 12, as we read, he actually took rest. And at 12 or 12:30, he got up to start translating the books. So what Prabhupada used to do, the temple was maybe three floors. It was very narrow. And Srila Prabhupada, when everybody was sleeping, used to go to see the brahmacharis who were sleeping. And it was so packed. Devotees were sleeping everywhere, in the bathroom, in the stairs, everywhere. And Prabhupada was walking amongst the devotees to see if everybody would chant Hare Krishna during the sleep. And some devotees were chanting Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada was very happy. It showed him the process is working. And he was thinking, at the time of death, they will be able to chant Hare Krishna, because in that unconscious state, they already chant Hare Krishna. So then time came for translating. He had a beautiful room. It was a wooden floor painted blue, and the walls were painted saffron. Prabhupada liked it very much because it was the same color as the room he had when he was a child. So at the time, one devotee was guarding Srila Prabhupada's room, and I was a new devotee. It was a French boy, devotee, and he was very kind to me. He was letting me look through the keyhole, and then I could see something very, very amazing. When Prabhupada was translating the books, it was very, very mystical. He had all the books in front of him, of the commentaries of the Acharya. And he was translating this very, very special, Srimad Bhagavatam. One day, Srila Prabhupada called one book distributor, and he told him, I know you are distributing my books, I'm very, very pleased, but are you reading my books? And the boy says, actually, I don't have much time in the day. Prabhupada says, oh, you should read my books. And he says, do you know why? Then he said, because myself I'm reading my books. And he said, do you know why? Because every time I'm learning something different. He said, I'm not writing these books. Krishna is dictating. Did anybody have the experience when you read Srila Prabhupada books for the second time or third time, you have a new realization, new understanding? Who has noticed that? Because it's according to our progress, to our practice. And Krishna is giving us some new, more understanding. So then Prabhupada would chant japa. There was Mangalartik for the devotees, and but Prabhupada wouldn't come to Mangalartik very rarely. He was finishing chanting japa in his room. Actually, in the beginning, in the temple of Bury Place, in the beginning, Yamuna Devi was the only pujari. And she was the only one at Mangalartik. We were still resting because we used to go 3 times a day on Harinam in the street. And we came back quite late at night. So after Mangalartik, after chanting japa, and before the Srimad Bhagavatam class, Srila Prabhupada went for a morning walk. You have seen videos of Prabhupada in the morning walk. When actually at one point in the beginning in America, Srila Prabhupada got sick and he went to India to see some Ayurvedic doctors. And the doctor told him, you have to walk, it's a quick walk, brisk walk. And you have to get massage every day. So that's what Prabhupada was doing. At the time, the ladies were cleaning his room. So I remember going to such walks with Srila Prabhupada. And I would always try to walk behind him and following his footsteps. And it was like a dance, like a ballet. You know, he was actually so quick. We were in our 20s. It was hard to follow his speed. So what did Srila Prabhupada do during the walk? How did he manifest the qualities of a pure devotees? Because Arjuna is asking, what are the qualities of a self-realized soul? How does he walk? How does he sit? So Prabhupada sometimes would remain silent during the walk. And at other time, he will discuss philosophy. In Los Angeles, there was a wonderful god brother who was a scientist. His name was Svarup Damodar. He became spiritual master after. And he made a wonderful service with the biggest scientists in the world, you know, introducing them to Krishna consciousness and making big retreat. So Prabhupada will discuss with him, life comes from life. And sometime he will do some contest, some debates with devotees. For example, he will tell a devotee, you are Mayavadi, and I will be myself the Bhakta, the devotee of Krishna. So try to defeat me. So they were actually, arguing and counter-arguing for a long time. The devotee will present Mayavadi philosophy that everything is one, and Prabhupada will reply as the Bhakta should reply. And who wins? Who wins? Srila Prabhupada wins, yes. But then he said, okay, we change. You are going to be the devotee, I'm going to be the Mayavadi. And again, back and forth and back and forth. And who wins? Prabhupada wins as a Mayavadi. And he was not happy at all. He chastised the devotee. He said, but you have heard me why I am winning as a Mayavadi. You know? So Prabhupada was very eager to teach. And at that time he said, actually, we have to become very knowledgeable in the philosophy, in the science of Bhakti, in order to defeat our opponents. So many things happen during these morning walks. Sometimes something mystical happened. Also in London, at one time the devotees were staying in this estate of John Lennon, and Prabhupada would take morning walks with the devotees. The grass was wet. The grass was wet, and when devotees walk, we could see their footprints. But when Prabhupada walked, there was no footprint. So Yamuna asked him, how come, Srila Prabhupada, we don't see your footprints? And says, you will understand later. Also, in this park, when he was walking, little stones were getting into his shoes. And at that time, not many devotees were very present, so it was very intimate. We could see pictures of Yamuna helping Srila Prabhupada taking the stones out of his shoes. And Yamuna's husband, Gauradesh, will take pictures. And when Prabhupada saw the pictures, he said, oh, you shouldn't show these pictures. I'm alone with the lady. My god brothers are going to criticize me. I'm a sannyasi. You know, he would discuss things of nature to teach the philosophy. In the park in London near the British Museum, one time he stopped in front of a statue. And he asked, who is that man? So the devotees told him. Then he said, you see, in order to have a statue, that man has actually done so many austerities. He has worked very, very hard to become a little famous, so that after his death, a statue will be established. And if he's lucky enough, once a year, someone will come and do a little speech. And maybe one man will come with a broom and will take the stool of the pigeon on the head of the statue. So Prabhupada had a great, great sense of humor. A pure devotee usually has a great sense of humor. So, yeah, he was joking. For example, during a walk, at that time, there was something happening in America. I don't know if you are aware of that here in Germany. It was some people called the deprogrammers. You know, who doesn't know who are the deprogrammers? Everybody knows? Yeah. Actually, they were paid by the parents to kidnap the devotees, and they would put the devotees in a hotel room. They would starve the devotees. They wouldn't let them sleep until the devotees would just say, "Oh, this Krishna consciousness, I give it up. This is really, I want to go back to normal life." So they were talking about that, and Vishnujan Maharaj was there, and he told Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, you travel all the time. You are like Narada Muni. The deprogrammers, they cannot catch you." And Prabhupada says, "No, they cannot catch me." And he said, "But some of your parents, they do not like me. But some of them, they do like me." And he turned to Brahmananda Maharaj at that time, and he says, "Tell about your mother." And Brahmananda Maharaj was laughing so much he couldn't talk. So Prabhupada explained during the initiation of Brahmananda and his brother Gargamuni, he asked them to go down in front of their mother. And also, the mother was a little pleased, but also a little angry. She said, "You have taken my 2 sons. You have made them into monks. You have shaved their heads. They are wearing robes. What else can you take for me? You have taken everything. What else do you want?" And then Prabhupada laughed and said, she was very wealthy, it was very wealthy family. So Prabhupada said, "Give me some money." And the lady says, "Oh no, never." So everybody was laughing. Srila Prabhupada had a grand sense of humor. Another of his quality was that he was fearless. And this was also shown, along with the sense of humor, during one of these morning walks. He was with his servant called Nanda Kumar. It was in America also, and they were passing in a very, very selected area near the ocean. Beautiful, expensive houses were there. There is one house, the walls were made out of glass, so you could see inside and they could see outside. And inside of the house was very, very fearful dog. Every time Prabhupada and the devotees were coming, the dog will bark, and he looked very, very scary. Then, another morning, they came to the same walk, and the dog was outside. And when he saw Prabhupada and Nanda Kumar, he came running to them, you know, like he was going to attack them. And Nanda Kumar thought, "Oh, I'm going to die today. I'm going to be hurt today. but I will protect Srila Prabhupada. Never mind. So the dog came, and Nanda Kumar couldn't do anything. And then the dog came to Srila Prabhupada, wanted to attack. And Srila Prabhupada took his sticks, and he said very, very loudly and very strong, he said, "Hot!" And the dog became like a puppy, you know. His tail was between his legs, and he became like a little puppy. And then he ran back to his house. So Nanda Kumar thought, Prabhupada has given me my first lesson about animal behavior. Then they were back in India, in Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, who has been to Vrindavan? Yeah, so you will know, and the one who didn't go yet, you will see when you go. There is a courtyard around Prabhupada's house with a kitchen, and Prabhupada's room are in the house. And Nanda Kumar was in Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada was receiving a lot of guests, distinguished guests from India. And all of a sudden there was a big, big, big sound in the courtyard. And a huge monkey was trying to actually break the door of the kitchen to eat everything in the kitchen. So Nanda Kumar thought, I know what to do. So he took Prabhupada's stick, he went out to the monkey, and he looked at the monkey and he put the stick, says, "Hot." But then the monkey looked at him, in the eye, not impressed at all. And then Nanda Kumar was really frightened. He took the stick and he ran back into Prabhupada's room. And everybody was laughing, the guests, and Prabhupada knew what happened. And then Prabhupada explained, if the animal is not impressed the first time, then you have to do it again, you have to be determined, then he will understand. So that's, Prabhupada was always fearless, and he showed it so many times. You know, he showed it, he had so many adventures in his life where it was actually life-threatening. Sometime in India, in Calcutta, with, I forgot how we call that movement. It's some like Maoist, communist. How do somebody knows? Remember how we call them? They wanted to attack him. Yeah. How do you say? Maybe. Yeah. How do you? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the name I was looking. Yeah. And they wanted to attack him, but he was really fearless, and everything went all right. When he went to Russia, you know, he was so brave. That's one quality of a pure devotee. Actually, he has no fear, and for him, impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary, as Prabhupada says, and as his Guru Maharaj used to say. So, then the morning class, it was time for the morning class in the temple. So it was really divine. Prabhupada was on the Vyasasana, and at that time, we could, boys and girls, we could all come and sit around Prabhupada. And sitting around Srila Prabhupada's feet, it was such extraordinary. He was carrying Krishna's presence. And it was like he was opening for us a little window on the spiritual world. Like listening to Srila Prabhupada talking very simply Bhagavad Gita philosophy, that we are not this body. Everybody was so convinced, there was no question not to be convinced. at least at the time while he was speaking like that. And it was really like a window in the spiritual world. And I remember such a day in that first temple in London. Srila Prabhupada, we were maybe 15 or 20 of us, and Srila Prabhupada asked all of us, can you read the shloka, the Sanskrit? And then he asked a few devotees, he asked me. And I felt very shy. And Prabhupada laughed so much. He says, she's not afraid to go to Russia, but she's afraid to read a Sanskrit verse. You know, he was very loving, very caring to his children. So something happened during the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class in India. Because in the beginning, Krishna consciousness was very intimate. The relationship with Srila Prabhupada were very intimate. And I'm like the second generation. Still, it was very, very intimate. The first generation, it was, you know, in America, in 26 Second Avenue. But then a time came in India where devotees went to India and started to learn about etiquette. Because Srila Prabhupada, he was so merciful. That's another quality of a pure devotee. Before coming to the West, he used to tell one of his Vaishnava friends, I'm going to go there, and I will teach the boy, because he thought he will only teach boys at the time. You know, because in India it was not so many ladies coming, living in the ashram. Ladies were married and they were doing spiritual progress, following their husband's spiritual progress at that time. But so Prabhupada thought it was going to be like that in the West. But as soon as he came, he thought it was not at all the same situation. So at the time he says, I will teach the boys, even if they cannot give up meat eating, or even if they drink alcohol, I will still teach them. Then, when he came to the West, he could see the society was different. He could see that boys and girls were mixing freely. And it changed, actually, according to time and place, it changed the form of giving Krishna consciousness. It didn't change the essence, pure devotional service, but it changed the way of addressing the society he was preaching to. That's also a pure devotee, an acharya. He's able to adapt to the culture he will preach to. So one time in India, Yamuna, as usual, was sitting near the Vyasasana at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. And one of the new sannyasi, is called sannyasi, came to Yamuna and he says, Yamuna Devi, can you see the ladies at the back of the temple? She says, yes, Maharaj. And he says, that's where your place should be. You know, etiquette. The new sannyasi, they were very strong about the etiquette in India. And so Yamuna very sadly went to the back of the room. And Prabhupada told her, Yamuna, I don't see you anymore. You don't like my Srimad Bhagavatam class? And she explained to him. And Prabhupada was very sad, but he didn't say anything. He could see because of the growing of the movement, things were changing. But at other time, he was really defending, the ladies. He was telling that boys and girls, they have equal rights and equal duties. And he would say that even sometimes it's some heavy statements in the scriptures about women. He would say that the ladies in Krishna consciousness, they are not ordinary women, they are angels. So, Prabhupada, he was a loving, caring, spiritual father. He will take his meal mostly alone. For example, he will take his breakfast. He will take fruits of the season of the countries mostly, and a simple thing in the morning. Depending on the time, some puffed rice, some nuts, some hot milk. And then he will do his correspondence, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He answered thousands of letters because we had no internet. So it was by hand. After, when he got a typewriter, it became typed by some devotees. There is something very amazing about the typewriter and Prabhupada. It's written by Gargamuni Prabhu in his new book called Gargamone. Somebody has read already this book? No? So, at one point, some devotee got not typewriter, dictaphone. They bought some dictaphone to Srila Prabhupada. And then they wanted to explain to Prabhupada how it worked. And Prabhupada very quickly said, no, I know, don't worry. And very amazingly, he knew how to use the dictaphone. And he said, when he was in India, he had a dream that there was some kind of machine like that he will see one day, and it will be very quick. He could talk through that machine, and somebody will type. So when the dictaphone actually appeared to him, he knew exactly how to work that dictaphone. So I was told if you have any question, we have about 15 minutes. You're most welcome if you want to share anything, or if you have any, maybe you want to share something first.
I would like if you have some personal pastimes on that side.
Yes, yeah.
Which you can share.
Okay. Quite a few. Should I tell you the first time I met Srila Prabhupada? Okay. So it was in the little temple in Bury Place, and we were three friends, three girls, 19 years old, friends from high school, and two of us. And we already had met the devotees who came to Paris. Prabhupada sent them to Paris. And at the time, the devotees were very poor. They were sleeping under the bridges of the Seine, or asking people to host them at home. They didn't have money at all. So we met them, and we were very interested in spiritual life. We wanted to find a spiritual master, but we were very polluted by impersonal philosophy. Mayavadi philosophy. Somehow or other, to make things short, they convinced us to come to London to meet Srila Prabhupada. So we came to London on a beautiful day. That was in December, 14th of December, 69. And it was the day where the wonderful deities, Shri Radhananda and Ishvara, were installed. So I remember we came to the temple. The lady devotees had put sari on us and put our hair properly. And there was a beautiful kirtan. Yamuna Devi was singing. Mukunda was playing the drum. But all of a sudden, everybody felt flat on the floor. And we didn't know why. We never did that before. And I felt very curious. So I put my head up, and for the first time I saw two beautiful golden feet passing by my head. I wanted to see more, and I saw Srila Prabhupada for the first time in this life. And I was very amazed. He looked so aristocratic. His head was up, and he walked very, very elegantly towards the Vyasasana. Then I thought, oh, he looked like the emperor of the world. And at the same time, he looked like the most humble sage. So then Prabhupada started to sing kirtan, in that very beautiful way, very slow, very meditative, with the kirtan. Then the tempo speeded up, then again very, very meditative. And he was looking at all of us. We were 15 maybe in the room. When I caught his glance, I had some tears coming. And I was wondering why, what's happening, why. And I understood, actually he knows me much better than I do. And he has so much compassion. He knows all the successes in life, all the failures, and he has some solutions. And I was overwhelmed by his compassion. So that was the first time I met Srila Prabhupada, and with my friends, who became Jyotirmayi, Devidasi, we wanted to find out if Prabhupada was our real spiritual master. So that first week was all about testing Srila Prabhupada. We were so foolish and proud. Only 19 years old, but we thought we have to test Srila Prabhupada. And he was playing with us. Like two days later, Prabhupada gave a lecture. An initiation was going to take place the next day. And he said, initiation is the beginning of spiritual life. Next day we were told, you go in Prabhupada's room. So I was feeling shy, but at that time I felt I should maybe get initiated by Srila Prabhupada. We had been there maybe 3 days. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, can I start spiritual life? And then he had a big smile, and he said, you already do spiritual life. You are cleaning Krishna's floor, you are cleaning Krishna's dishes. I looked at him thinking, this is spiritual life. And after we heard that he had asked Tamal Krishna Prabhu at the time, why don't we initiate these French girls? And Tarak Krishna knew how impersonal these two were, and he said, "They're not ready, Srila Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, "Okay, we'll wait a little bit." You know, he was really like caring, loving spiritual father. A few days again after, we were called into his room, and he asked me, "What is your name?" And because I had not been initiated, I told him, "But Prabhupada, I have no name." And then he started to laugh, and he said, "You have no name?" And then he understood. He said, "Oh, you don't like the name your parents gave you?" And he had a wonderful smile, meaning, "I will give you a name you would like." And he did, because my dear mentor, friend was Yamuna Devi. And I was thinking, I would love to have the name of Yamuna, like a river, holy river. So when the time came, Prabhupada was traveling the world. So he used to send us the beads and some little blue thin letter called aerogram. And my letter was, "My dear Mondakini, Devidasi, I hope you're in good health and a joyful Krishna consciousness. I'm very glad to accept you as my daughter." And then he said, "You should learn Krishna consciousness from the older devotees." And then he said, "Your name is Mondakini Devidasi. It's the name of the river Ganges when it flows in the heavenly planets." So I thought, oh, yes, his smile was true. He gave me a name I love, the name of a holy river. And many, many devotees had the same experience. So we could go on the name thing, but in past time we have a lot, but if you have any other questions or if you want to share anything. So we have two ladies, okay. Okay, let's start from the closest and we'll go to you. Dear. Other what?
Other intelligence.
Intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's a little bit like a contradiction.
Okay. Okay. Did everybody hear the question? Did you hear or not? Everybody heard? Yeah.
Prabhupada said that women and men they were equal.
Yes.
But they have some, what they have understood, a different level of intelligence. Isn't it contradictory?
Yeah. Yes. So there is a wonderful book. You would love to read it. It's called 5 Years, 11 Months by Vishaka, Vishaka. And she was a feminist before she joined in America, very strong feminist. And then at one point she read in a Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam a statement about a woman being less intelligent. And she became, her mind exploded because that was the movement in America of the woman wanted freedom, equality, but then there were women with Prabhupada that were very intelligent. There was Yamuna Devi, another one also. So, I forgot her name. So then she went to ask one of the ladies, how can you tolerate such, such statements? And the devotee, she laughed and she said, I had the same reaction as you have. And she explained about these two kinds of intelligence. Like in Bhagavad Gita, it's actually Krishna, when Krishna described the womanly qualities, intelligence is one of the woman quality also. But as you said, although in Kali Yuga, everything is mixed now. But as you said, it's the woman has an intelligence that is a little different. It's more intuition, it's more motherly, caring, and intuition. And the man, the intelligence of the man may be more analytical, but but what Prabhupada
there are different forms of intelligence, Prabhupada wants to say, but these different forms should be equal.
Yes, so my thoughts. Yeah. He said the woman and the man, they have equal rights and equal duties. And he was actually telling to the ladies that once they become Krishna conscious, they shouldn't consider themselves as women. They should consider themselves as spirit soul. It doesn't mean we shouldn't act in a proper way as women should act in society. So we shouldn't act like the men. We should act, in a very chaste, very womanly manner, with a lot of humility. But we shouldn't identify with the body of a woman. There was one of my dearest god sister, Rukmini. She was in Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada was turning the globe of the world. And he was saying to the devotees, maybe 10 in the room, Brahmananda, you will go to Russia. You will go to Africa. And every one of you should open a temple. And Rukmini said, even the woman, Srila Prabhupada, she was 16. And he said, yes, of course. And when they were reading, ladies were reading statements quite negative about women qualities in the material world, they came to Prabhupada, they said, it means we can never be Krishna conscious. Does it mean that? And Prabhupada says, yes, if you think you are a woman. So it's a question of balance for Varnashram Dharma and in order to be happy, in our spiritual life, we should behave with the qualities of Vaishnava ladies. But we shouldn't identify completely with this body of a woman. And it should be respect and care between men and women. Right?
The woman was 16 years old.
Yes.
She opens the temple.
she was living in the temple. She joined. That's another quality, as we discussed before, of the pure acharya, the pure devotee. He's revolutionary. He accepted the lady because he saw that a woman and men and boys and girls, they were always working together, studying together in the Western society. That even it would encourage men to have association of the woman in a proper way. There is a very funny story about that. And maybe the Russian devotees will know. It's a wonderful devotee, he's a spiritual master, Chaitanya Chandracharan Prabhu. He was temple president, and he was sent to a temple where it was only men, only boys. And the temple was not doing very well. So he decided we're going to have ladies coming, brahmacharinis coming. And in the beginning, the boys didn't like it at all. They were protesting, we don't want a woman here. But then the ladies came, they started to clean everything. They were very humble. They were cooking nicely, helping the boys to, with their torn clothes. And little by little, the boys became very, very enthusiastic. And the temple became a very good preaching center. As a woman devotees, we should remain very, very pure, very chaste, very humble. But we shouldn't identify with the fact we are women. Same with the boys. We shouldn't identify with our material body. We are spirit soul, and Prabhupada actually gave us a schedule to act and identify and to work for Krishna as a spirit soul. But while in this body, we should be as good as we can, as good representative of the spiritual master and Krishna as we can. Does it answer your question? Do you want to add anything? No? Where is Prabhu there? Do you want to add anything, Prabhu? No? Okay. Yeah. Can you speak loud? So, it's a very, very high standard. Oh, yes. And when it comes to like weekend in trying to progress in Bhakti, and then also at the same time trying to put harmony in family life with children and other things also. Yes. If you like share some light on this stuff, like how to like sometimes it's not overwhelming. Yes. Yes. Yeah, you're completely right. What we discuss about Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that's a high standard. Even brahmacharis or sannyasi cannot imitate them, And you're completely right, because we won't have time to go deeply into it, but one of the duties of the Vaishnava ladies, most of us actually have a family. And we have to actually find the right balance between spiritual life and family life. And yeah.
I have a question for that subject. May it be that Prabhupada said to some ladies in some cases, for you it's better not to have a child and work in the temple, maybe on the altar or something like that. The woman, she can have a child, she's young, but Prabhupada said, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada didn't force. But in a way, I remember in the beginning, in a way we were encouraged to get married. You know, like it was like not forced. Nobody would be forced, but Srila Prabhupada wanted the ladies to be protected. If you know, and now we can see. I mean, it's true that ladies need, from the material point of view, we need to be protected. In Vedic culture, you know, the woman is protected by the father, husband, son. But in our society, it doesn't work like that. But we can be protected by our Vaishnava family. Yeah, yes, it does. Yeah, yeah, but still, you need also, the spiritual master might be far away, so you need some protection of the Vaishnava family. So, to come back to the question, actually, to be active and keeping the family Krishna conscious is also seva. It's very, very important. Like now, most of our congregation are in family life. So it's a question of finding the right balance. When you have to work, how to do your sadhana, how to keep enthusiastic, how to keep Krishna in the center. So what I found for myself, as you said, for 23 years I was working. So it was actually association of devotees. The secret to keep enthusiastic, was to have association of enthusiastic devotees. That gives us a joy and courage. But Prabhupada considered that for a lady, for example, to raise children, it's a very, very important service. For example, I have one very close, dear God sister. She was one of the first to come to Krishna consciousness. And at one point, she had a little boy, and she was doing deity worship before. And she came to Prabhupada, she said, "Oh, I cannot do my deity worship. I cannot do my deity worship. I want to give the child to some other family members." And Prabhupada became angry. And he said, if you cannot do deity worship, you do child worship. And he says, and you have to raise your child at least until he's 4. And if you don't want to take care of him after, you give it to me. I will take care of him personally. And he was insisting how these children, they were actually given to us by Krishna. And it was a big responsibility to actually raise them and teach them Krishna consciousness in a loving mood. Not in a forceful way, but in a playful, loving mood. So it will be a good samskara for the future. So you are right, we have to find the right balance when we are in family life. We cannot have such a absolute standard. And Krishna, he actually sees the intention. Prabhupada says that's the intention that matters. You know, a pure devotional and surrendered intention. And family life sometimes is even harder than just to be in the temple, you know, like being a brahmachari. Or, you know, it can be very difficult because you have to sacrifice so much. You have to be very tolerant. So there is no hindrance. We can become pure devotee as a sannyasi, or as a householder. But also, what's your name? Oh, beautiful name. Good one. As you said, Prabhupada would encourage ladies to do what was best for them. So if somebody didn't want to get married, he will not force. But then the lady has to be sure that later on she may feel some frustration. So we have to be very careful. Prabhuji, can I go drink? Oh, sorry, did it answer your question? You there? Did it answer? Yeah, you. What's the name of that lady with the glasses? Did it answer your question? Okay. Haribo. Yes. You mean to devotees in general? Yeah. Yes, Srila Prabhupada was very pleased with book distribution. He was actually, it's not that book distribution is the only service, but even the other service, they're actually helping to try to deliver the suffering conditioned souls. And Srila Prabhupada, that was his mission, the order of his spiritual master, to print books, to publish them, to distribute them. So how he showed it? He showed it one little lila. It was in Los Angeles. There was a beautiful garden. So Prabhupada in the evening was going to the garden when it was warm, and his servant was reading Krishna book. And he used to go to rest around 10-ish. But at some point when book distribution came up, Rameshwara Prabhu, who was leading book distribution, would make a report of the books that had been distributed during the day. And although at the time Prabhupada didn't do any management at the time of the night before taking rest, he would be very, very happy to get actually that report, how many books were distributed. And one day, he took that page of the report and he wrote something at the back, and Rameshwara got it, and it was so beautiful. He said that actually I'm so pleased, and my spiritual master is pleased even 1,000,000 more times. You know, he really expressed it, and he was very, very thankful to the devotees when they were distributing books, because when when the devotee distribute books, it's like being the instrument of Srila Prabhupada and the whole parampara. Prabhupada one day told one devotee, there is one thing you have that I don't have. And the devotee said, it's not possible, Prabhupada. What can I have that you don't have? And Prabhupada says, it's actually the future. I'm already an old man. You will go into the future, but I won't. So when we are doing book distribution, and I know it's not easy, it can be very difficult, but it's like we are doing it, we are Prabhupada's hands, Prabhupada's voice. We are just helping him to deliver the message of Lord Chaitanya and the message of Krishna to the conditioned suffering souls. And who is doing some book distribution here? Who is a little bit, even little? Yeah. You can try. I'm not very good myself also. But it's something very wonderful, because sometimes we won't distribute anything. But if we pray to Lord Chaitanya, to Prabhupada, Krishna will send the people to us. You know. We just become instruments. Does it answer? Sorry. Can you do a little louder for me? Yeah. We can talk later.
Thank you very much for the Kini Mataji for this nice lecture.
Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.
And the austerity we took just from the train on the Yasasa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to see such an assembly. Prabhupada will be very happy with all of you.
And tomorrow morning there will be also a Srimad Bhagavad class with
with your blessings. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Katha ki jai.